There we go. Okay, so as you guys know, this is a fleet quote unquote 201 class. We're going to be covering some more advanced topics that aren't typically covered. And most of that actually is going to have to do with intel and the prep work before you actually undock. So, first thing I want to go over, go ahead and open up your ship tree. If you aren't familiar with it, it's under the Neocom menu, ship tree. And I'm going to highlight a few things that people don't necessarily realize. And some of this I did touch on with AMA yesterday. But the first huge thing that you need to know about is recons. As most of you guys probably know, I think it was last year they switched it so that no, it was earlier this year. They switched it so that way Sinos for capitals can only be lit by force recon ships. So those are going to be the cloaky ones. That's typically going to be the one on the right, if I remember correctly. So that's going to be the Falcon, Pilgrim, the Rapier, and I believe it's the Arazu. Yes.
Yes.
But what people don't normally remember is that there are two types of recons. Um, Both of them are going to have the same E-War bonus, typically, but the combat recon is going to be tankier and much more suitable for fleet combat. I'm sure some of you guys have heard Shattered or ProGod or one of the other FCs who tends to run big fleets screaming that they need more Hugins. That's because most of the recon ships will have their faction's normal E-War bonus. It's going to be the same as the electronic assault ship, which is the frigate hull that has E-War bonuses, but it's going to have a massive range. Ship's going to be a lot tankier, stuff like that. So with the Hugin, it's webs. With the curse is actually a bit of a double whammy. So the curse carries over the arbitrator's E-War bonus, which is the T1 ship, as the Amar cruiser bonus, which is 7.5% to your weapon. And it also has a massive range bonus and efficiency bonus to Nos and Newt. So that's one thing you want to look out for. You don't really see them much, although I'm kind of surprised because it's actually one of the few Amar ships that can be shield tanked really well. The Lachesis has a massive bonus to point and scram range, and then the Rook is a bit of a lame duck nowadays because it's a ECM boat, but at the same time, it's still something to keep an eye out for. And this is all going to have to do with intel. Part of this actually ties into the need to have a really good scout because you can't actually see these on D-scan. Any of the combat recons are invulnerable to D-scan, so you have to make sure that you have someone getting a visual ID on them and actively checking to see if any of them are there. Any questions so far?
I'm good so far.
Okay, beautiful. The next thing I wanted to. Oh, and by the way, those are just the combat recons are just the thing that people tend to not think about, but do make sure to go through the ship tree, learn what each type of ship is good at, what weapon system they use, and how they're best tanked. For example, let's see, if you see Osprey Navy issues on Intel, and you want to go engage them, you need to know that they're going to be shield boat and they're going to use missiles. So firewalling is actually a viable strategy against them. Whereas, for example, if it was a MOA fleet, since they use hybrids, it's not. For those of you who don't know, firewalling is having a whole bunch of smart bombs, um, and that can actually destroy missiles mid-flight before they actually impact your ship. It's just little things like help you pick your doctrine to best engage them, and that's typically referred to as counters.
I have I have
Go
a
for it.
question. Are, do the missiles have different resistances? Like, would it change the type of smart bomb that you use?
No, I don't believe so. That's actually a question I've never thought to ask myself. Let me check real quick.
I'm not sure if they do. I know that bombs have pretty heavy resistances to their own type. I'm not
Yeah,
sure if it carries over
bombs
to missiles.
do. Uh, no, missiles do actually have a native resistance to their type of damage, but at the same time, they have barely any health. So you, and on top of that, the way that missiles work, if they see that you're firewalling specifically one type of damage, they can also just go and tell the entire fleet to switch to a different type of missile. All of a sudden, boom, you might as well have not bothered. So yes, you could theoretically make sure that everyone's running the perfect type of smart bomb, but you can only do that before you undock because it's impractical. I'm sorry, to have everyone carrying around a mobile depot because they can reload faster than you can drop aggro and switch which type of smart bomb you're running.
But I guess if you had two different types of smart bombs, then it would cover just about everything. I guess.
But then at that point, you run into the issue that the smart bombs are also going to be damaging your fleet. So you want to make sure that whatever smart bomb you're running is going to be the highest resistance that your ship has. That way it does the least damage to your fleet and logic can keep up easier. That's why we, for example, if we have a smart bomb on a ship, tend to run kinetic or explosive because we run shields. That's another thing you need to keep in mind, by the way. Shield resistances. With Tech 1 ships, shield is going to be weakest on EM, then thermal, and then I, I believe it's explosive, then kinetic, but the last two are so close it doesn't really matter. Armor is the opposite way around. It's weakest to explosive, then kinetic, then thermal, then EM. That is only the T1 resistances. Each faction has their own specific T2, and doctrines also tend to try and patch those holes. For example, our Eagle Doctrine as a random example. Let me pull that up. Okay, so if you shut all the hardeners off, it, including the ADC, it has a base shield resistance of 26 EM, 86 thermal, 78 kinetic, 63 explosive, which is actually very good. Most T2 resistances are exceptional by basically every standard. But if you're looking at it right now, you'll notice we have a Tech 2 EM hardener on there. And what that does is it brings that EM resistance hole up to the point that it's less noticeable. It's still weaker than the others because we don't have the slots to throw multiple at it and even it out perfectly. But at the same time, it gets to the point that using, for example, lasers against it is less effective than it would be if that hole was there. So yeah, as I was saying, make sure you learn your ship tree, learn what ships work with which type of tank, what their role bonuses are. Second thing I wanted to touch on, since I distracted myself there, was weapon systems, and especially tracking. Um, it's slightly different mechanics with missiles, but it's actually easier to learn. So I'll just touch on that at the end. So with ship guns, you have to worry about tracking. And what that means is that basically the smaller the gun, the faster it will be able to turn. Makes sense, right? But you also have to factor in how fast the other ship is going and how far away they are. Both of those are going to play into the tracking. So I'm not going to go super nitpicky on it, but in general, what I would recommend, um, medium guns, so that's anything that goes on a cruiser or a battle cruiser, is going to be good for engaging basically any type of ship, but you might take a slight penalty shooting against frigates. Um, there is one exception to that, and that would be railguns. That's the long range hybrid. That's what the Eagle fleet uses. You tend to not want to shoot at frigates close range with that because they are one of the worst tracking guns in the game. Same goes with artillery. So that's what the Munins, the Hurricanes, and the HFIs use. Small guns, you basically don't have to worry about can you shoot the target. They will track basically anything, uh, unless, to quote myself from the AMA yesterday, you are trying to shoot someone as you are basically jousting them in space. As they'll, if the transversal is under like 3,000 meters per second, you'll be fine. Uh, with battleship guns, however, you're going to be dicey even against some cruisers. So that's why battleships tend to not get used that much. You have to know exactly what they're bringing to be able to guarantee that you will be successful against them. And with the current meta, which is a word I hate, but it's the only one that really applies in this situation, are based on kitey bullshit that battleships have just become much less viable in general. Any questions so far, or does the 10-cent version of transversal and tracking work for you?
Yeah, it works for me.
Gordex, Georgian, either y'all?
So far, so good.
I have a question about doctrines.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
I have some question about doctrine.
Yeah, of course. What you need to know.
Okay, uh, so there is like eagle fleets, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as I am a very low SP pilot, can I bring a Ferox instead to those fleets?
Okay, that is going to be a hard no. Let me explain why. So typically with fleets, you want to make sure that you're at least able to go the same speed and maneuver at the same rate as the ship that has been called for. So, for example, to use your example, no, you can't fly a Ferox with an Eagle fleet. The Eagles are going to be outmaneuvering you. They're going to be going faster than you, and you're also going to just be absolutely giant compared to them. Everything will apply to you 10 times harder than it does the Eagles. Plus, on top of that, the Eagles just have so much more resistance than you. It's not even funny. But, for example, a MOA, which is a T1 cruiser, that would typically be okay, but we tend to prefer that everyone fly the same DPS ship. If you aren't able to fly that, it's better to grab a support ship. For example, Basilisks. Sorry, Basilisks is T2. I'm sorry, it's been a long day. Osprey would be better for you. That's the Tech 1 logistics cruiser. And there's also always fast tackle and T1 E warships. So for Caldari, that's going to be the Griffin. For Amar, it's going to be the Crucifier. And I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head. There we go, the Maulus for Galente, yes. With Minmatar, we do have Doctrine Fits for the Vigil, but it basically only has bonuses to target painting. So those tend to not be desired as much as the others. Personally, I would rather have additional T1 fast tackle over a Vigil.
Yeah, I think the Crucifier has been the most popular ship we've handed
Yes,
out over the last couple of weeks.
The Crucifier is absolutely amazing. For those of you who don't understand why, so the Crucifier actually has the same weapon disruptor bonus that I was talking about that the Arbitrator, the Curse, and the Pilgrim have, but it also has a 10% bonus to the optimal range. So it is actually absolutely devastating at long range weapon disruption. And what that allows you to do is basically pick a random ship and tell them, if you're in a frigate fleet, you go and tell them you can't track us anymore. Your guns are only good for tracking battleships now. Or if you're in something else, you can go and switch the script that you've got loaded into it to be the optimal range script, and all of a sudden they can only shoot 40% as far.
And you can outrange them, so there's no way for them to easily hit you when you can
Mm-hmm.
basically outrange them and cut them down to size. That's why I've probably handed out hundreds of them the last couple of weeks.
Exactly. They are absolutely brutal. To be able to give that's why they're so favored. You can hand someone like you, Georgie, who's low SP, a crucifier, and with minimal skills, they can literally remove someone who's been playing the game for 10 years from being combat effective. All of a sudden, the only thing they're good for is soaking up some damage that someone else would be taking instead. They aren't supplying any of their own.
Oh, that sounds great. Might try that.
Mm-hmm. And people don't bring that up, which really sucks because a lot of times I feel that the new bros or the lower SP pilots just go and feel like they're being shoved off in a frigate and told to go sit in the corner, but it's not. You're actually being given this amazing amount of capability. It's just not a DPS ship. So people look at it and say, oh, you aren't doing shit because you aren't applying DPS. You are doing shit. You're preventing them from applying their DPS. And that is absolutely more devastating than one guy in a T1 cruiser trying to keep up with a hack fleet.
Okay, so you would recommend me to get into Crucifier if I were in Eagle Fleet?
Oh yeah, for sure. But the Crucifier can fly with basically any of our doctrines and be effective. The one thing you have to keep in mind, so with weapon disruption, there's one module for guns and there's one module for missiles. You have to know what you're going to be going up against ahead of time. Typically, you're going to want to load the guns, but if, for example, the FC says something about goons bringing out a Cerberus fleet, you're going to want the missiles.
Also, if you haven't been in long, we have a Stratop newbies channel that runs during Stratops. And you can be in that. And if you have any questions, like during a Stratop, ask. When it comes to stuff like the Crucifier, we're pretty good at trying to man that and give people tips on them.
Let me go ahead and throw a fleet up so that way you can link that to him, Wolfie, because I don't actually have that channel.
Yeah, I think Kel made it. Let's see. Yeah, let me see if I got it on this guy. Yep, I do. Let me leave standing. Let me just pull into this station.
Okay, there we go. There's an advert up. It's called FC201.
Cool. I'm doing it in 1 sec. I want to go ahead and get safe because I'm trying to nail down a simple farmer safe spot right now.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Anyways, um, okay, so back to what I had been saying while we wait. So I basically covered guns in terms of how you use them to choose your doctrine. The flip side of that is missiles, and those are a lot easier. Basically, just look at what ships are going to have bonuses for them, and don't use them against anything smaller than that size ship. So you aren't going to want to use heavy missiles against anything smaller than a cruiser. You aren't going to want to use torps or cruise missiles against anything smaller than a battleship. There are some exceptions to that one, mostly having to do with stealth bombers, but that's a discussion for another day.
So heavy missile is for battleship.
Heavy missiles are for cruisers, battle cruisers, and battleships. The torpedoes and cruise missiles are the ones that you typically don't want to use against anything other than a battleship. And there always are going to be exceptions. You're just going to wind up taking a penalty to how well they apply. Just like with the guns, they can still shoot the smaller, faster targets, but you're going to miss a lot of shots, and when you do get one, it's not going to do as much damage. The second thing I want to bring up, sorry, the third thing I want to bring up, I'm going to go ahead and launch the stream right here. Let me just change the details on it.
Are people connecting to you visibly?
Well, I was about to put the stream up, but I'm not seeing the stream settings, so let me just log into Twitch and change that real quick before I do it.
Are you in a custom fleet?
I do have a fleet up in game. I linked my Twitch channel in the ping because I had a feeling I would wind up pulling up a stream so that way you guys can look at what I'm going to show you.
Okay. What's your fleet called then?
FC201. It's under Quinn Mumba.
Okay. Am I the only one that can't find? Oh wait, no, that was in. Oops, I was looking in the wrong place.
And I'm gonna relink that Strat Up Nubro channel again for everybody.
I'm
Oh,
I want to
where,
say
FC201 FC. Oh, there it is.
where is the link?
Oh, I have to leave mine first. Damn.
Yep, you have to leave the existing fleet. That's the one downside to this.
Damn, how do I? I obviously don't do this that much.
How do you leave it? There's that little hamburger menu in the corner. There's a leave fleet button when you click on it, left corner.
Yeah, I managed to find it.
Anyways, the stream's up at this point. So once you guys have the fleets, looks like everyone's in fleet. Go ahead and open up the stream as well. It's going to be twitch.tv/dailyquinn, DAILYQUINN.
Links up in fleet as well.
Thank you, Wolfie.
can I say one thing about tracking since we just covered that so brief?
Yeah, no, of course. I'll answer it while everyone logs in to look at my screen.
It's more something I noticed. Like I would put tracking enhancers or some kind of tracking system on my thing to help with the tracking, and it was specifically like when I was on a battleship, and I didn't realize like how low the tracking was. Like I'd have a gun that tracks at 0.9 or 1 point something, and then the tracking enhancer helps by like 20%, and I'm like, okay, so instead of having one, I have 1.2, and I realized it's probably not getting the benefit that I thought it would.
Yep. Yeah, no, there's a reason that I said you don't want to use battleship guns against anything uh, smaller than a battleship. They are absolutely brutal to try and apply against smaller stuff with. you need a whole lot of webs and paints to pull it off. As an illustration, so this is a small focus pulse laser 2. It's an energy weapon, frigate sized. Okay, and if we scroll down, there we go. I scrolled down. See that the turret tracking is 246.25. That's on a frigate. They can track basically anything. Whereas with a battleship, they typically have tracking of under 5. Mega Pulse Laser 2, it's the equivalent, direct equivalent, but the battleship size has a turret tracking of 3.373 base. Battleship guns are literally designed to be used against other battleships, sometimes slower, like afterburner battle cruisers, but that's about it. But no, the next thing I actually wanted to cover is the fleet composition window. If you look at the fleet window right here, if you click the hamburger menu at the top, you can scroll down and click the show fleet composition. And what that does is it pulls up this other screen right here. And you can see everyone in your fleet, what system they're in, what ship they're in, what type of ship it is. And you can also see their fleet role. The fleet skills is less important than it used to be. What this is it's fleet command, wing command, squad command. And it used to be that you had to have a certain leadership skill to hold a squad or a wing, but that's not the case anymore. And it also shows where in the fleet they are in terms of in the actual fleet window. And this can be really important while you're forming up. It allows you to see what type of ships people are in, if there's any big holes in what you've got. And there's actually one other thing I want to bring up. Brave has a new tool called Overseer that Airneer developed and rolled out, I think, about 4 months ago. What it does is it allows you to go and not constantly have to have that open up on your screen, and it will also break it down for you as opposed to you having to read through every single line. So once you've logged in, you'll see this screen right here. Everyone can see this, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, you guys cut out.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful.
I'm lost at how to find fleet composition.
Oh, the fleet composition? Okay, so it's the hamburger menu at the top of the fleet window right here. Can you see this? That hamburger
The
menu right there?
the 4 lines.
Yes. You click on that, and then show fleet composition is down by the bottom. I'm hovering over it right now.
And only the FC can do this,
Yeah,
right?
the only people who can see fleet composition are those who are in fleet command, wing command, or squad command positions. So, Georgie here, I'll bump you up to squad commander so that way you can look at it yourself. There you go. You should be able to pull it up now and see what everyone except for me is running in the fleet. What the fleet composition window does is it goes and allows you to see anyone in a subordinate position to you. So if you're in squad command, you can see everyone in your squad. If you're in wing command, you can see everyone in a squad that is contained within your wing. And if you're in fleet command, you can see the entire fleet.
Okay. It's pretty
Okay, I'm
useful.
caught up.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, so back over to Overseer. So one of the catches with this is you have to actually have Fleet Boss because that's how it's able to grab it through ESI is with the Fleet Boss privileges. So once you've signed in, you're going to click right here on Host Fleet, and then you'll just type in a fleet name. In this case, I'm just going to name it FC201. Set your SRP level if applicable. You normally aren't going to have to worry about that coalition fleet. That's more for Voltron FCs and stuff. Just leave it unchecked, you'll be fine. And then click Start Monitoring. And then once it has a chance to pull the ESI, what's going to happen is it's going to populate and show what corps are in your fleet, what alliances, what types of ships, what class of ships they are, location, stuff like that. And you can sort the information just by clicking on stuff. It's actually a really intuitive interface. So it just populated here. So for example, oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking of something else, but you can still see it breaks it down very well. So you've got everyone and what position they're in within the fleet. You've got their alliances and corps, and then you've got the ships grouped by type. So for example, 2 of y'all are in Tech 1 frigates, so it's grouping those together. Then we've got a Megathron, we've got a Destroyer, which is a Cormorant, and then I'm sitting in my Bridge Redeemer right now. So that's classified separately from being a regular battleship.
I see.
So this is really useful just for information parsing while you're forming up, and also just for keeping track of stuff like that. I can also flip that little toggle right there, and anyone who's not in the same system will be filtered out. You can also see what system they're in right there, just like you can with the fleet composition window.
And who can access this?
The only people who can access this, so you can only see your fleets.
I see.
Yes. There are only a handful of people who can see everyone's fleets. Shattered and Sandrin are 2 of them, and I think that Leadership can as well, but don't quote me on that.
It depends on what part of leadership they are. Some of them have.
I mean, like, do you need you know, like some people have like the FC title, right? If you create your own fleet, can you still access this?
You can, yes, if it's yours, because you can share your
Yeah,
ESI data with it.
Literally anyone who creates a fleet can load Overseer. You don't have to have FC tags. It's a tool open to anyone in the Alliance.
Cool.
On top of that, you can actually click right here on Personal Stats, and it'll show what fleets you've run fleets in, when you ran fleets, stuff like that. I've been really bad and haven't gone on a lot of fleets recently that were tracked on Overseer.
Mm-hmm.
If you notice, literally the only fleet I've been on was the PUIG iHub fleet that I ran last month.
I see.
I have done a couple of Black Ops fleets, which we intentionally keep off Overseer, but those also tend to be rather small and less consequential overall.
I see. So, is it like vulnerable? Is that why you don't use Overseer for certain fleets?
Well, it's not so much that it's vulnerable, it's just more. That's a habit we got into back when it first got started, because the restriction on who can see the fleets didn't used to be there. It used to be that any FC could see every fleet on there. And needless to say, part of the reason that that was removed was because of Black Ops and Capital fleets. We don't want other people being able to see where the fleet's at, how many people are in the fleet, what type of ships the fleet has, and accidentally make a comment about it that breaks OPSEC. So it's perfectly fine now. It's just a habit we started within the Black Ops group back when Overseer first rolled out.
Got it.
There are also 2 other things I want to bring up that are in-game, and they're going to be much better taught by other videos, and those are D-Scan and your probe scanner. You can use the D-scan to see without having to have probes on your ship. Just see when someone's about to land on you, stuff like that. Be ready for it. I tend not to worry about that though, because I also tend to have a prolific amount of scouts, or more accurately, enough scouts. But I know how many I need because I have the experience. So I tend to know when people are jumping into system, what they're in, stuff like that. The other thing is the probe scans. And this actually ties back into what I had said about the combat recons. They actually do not show up on your D-scan. The only way to see them, if you can't see them in your overview, is with the probe scanner.
I see.
Combat scanner, bro?
Yeah, your probe scanner. If you undock, you can open it up by clicking Alt-P. I don't want to spend the time teaching everyone how to actually probe scan, though. What's going to be better is for you to go to the Dojo's YouTube channel and find an exploration video. That's going to teach you.
Later this week.
Yep. That'll teach you everything you need to know about how to use the probe scanner. Just know that it does have utility in combat. There are two caveats, though. First is that you can't use core scanner probes. You have to use combat scanner probes. The second one is that the combat scanner probes require that you use an expanded probe launcher, which is a lot harder to fit on your ship. That's why FCs tend to not actually fly the ship that is called for. We tend to fly a ship that can keep up, has more tank, and also has the ability to fit a probe scanner for bigger fleets.
I see.
Yeah, there's a very limited amount of ships that are combat capable that can actually use that expanded launcher. It's a bit of a pain in the ass to fit.
Yep. To be fair, with most ships, if you don't put guns on it, you can cram it in there, but it's a little iffy. The exceptions to that are strategic cruisers, tactical destroyers, and the Monitor. All those two classes in that specific ship all have bonuses that make it easier to fit a probe launcher. Which
I
is,
see.
and on top of that, strategic cruisers just can get so much tankier than basically anything without an assault damage control in their weight class. That's why before the Monitor was introduced into the game 2 years ago, they used to be the primary ship that FCs would fly to anchor on.
Monitors are used often? I thought they were like very expensive and rare.
They are, but they're also
They are. They're rare because they have effectively zero combat utility. Let me go ahead and pull it up and show that to you.
Is the Monitor on the ship thing? I thought it was NCOM
It
specific.
it is not an Edencom ship. It is a Concord ship. It's classified the same as an Enforcer, a Marshal, or the.
Oh, I got you.
I'm
I thought you pulled
blanking.
it from the tree.
Yeah, it's not actually in the ship tree. It's a special edition ship. So the only way to view that is to. I'll actually show you how to do it. If you know the name, you can just search for it. But if you just want to go and peruse all of these ships, you actually
Market.
to special edition ships in the market, and then you can show by type. The Monitor is actually an exception. That is actually up here under advanced cruisers, flag cruisers. That is where the Monitor lives in the market. And you can see right here, it's got some really nice skill bonuses. So you get bonuses to agility for every level of Galente cruiser, sig radius for Minmatar, shield hit points for Kaldari, and armor hit points for Amar. Plus the flag cruiser bonuses is 4% to all resistances. The flip side of it is down here in the roll bonuses. And this is what absolutely nerfs its utility for anything other than an FC. So it does allow you to fit a micro jump drive, which is rare. This is the only cruiser in the game that can. But, oh no, I'm sorry, it's not here. It's actually the fitting that eliminates its utility. So if I simulate it right here, you'll see that it has similar CPU and power grid to a freighter. You can fit basically nothing on it. 1.3 CPU, 3.8 power grid. The only things that you can fit are the things that they put into the roll bonuses. So you can fit all three types of prop mods, the Afterburner, Micro Warp Drive, and Micro Jump Drive. You can actually fit all three of them because it's such a huge reduction. You can also fit probe launchers and target painters. But the target painters is literally just a way for you to whore on the targets that the fleet is shooting, because it's got a 99% reduction in their effectiveness. This is literally designed to just be a ship that you can sit in and not have to worry about being headshot. Stay on field and stay in command a lot longer than you would with most other ships. And that's all it's good for.
That's also why it's expensive, because it's pretty much only
That's
FCs
also why
make
it's
them.
expensive, because it's a bit rare. Only a few people in the game make them.
How exactly are they acquired then? Like, or do like the blueprints drop or something?
Project Discovery, I think, is the only way to acquire the blueprint.
Negative.
Or
I've actually built them myself. What you do is you buy the blueprint as copies from the Concord LP store. So you have to run incursions.
I see.
That also explains why they're pricey as hell then.
Mm-hmm. Concord LP never goes cheap. Plus, on top of that, they're a T2 cruiser with, I believe, slightly more input material requirements than most. But people also do charge a pretty penny because they're having to farm the Concord LP to then even be able to get the blueprints and make them.
At least it's not quite as bad a markup as the Marshall.
Well, that one's just a scarcity thing because it's Project Discovery. Like, you want to get paid for the literally hundreds of hours you put into that thing to get it.
Oh yeah, I've got two of the BVCs so far. My alts. I am now a master at Project Discovery.
Oh geez, let's put it this way. I decided that I didn't want to do it because I would rather just make the money to get the ship if I ever wanted it. I actually don't really want to get it because it's way too expensive for what you get over the regular Black Ops. Ironically enough, instead I sank the same amount of ISK into a Redeemer. My combat fit Redeemer costs over 3 billion ISK for the whole, and I have like 4.2 or 4.5 billion ISK of implants that I run with it.
Oh.
Yep, full high grade amulet. It's a full 1 through 9 implant set. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
Now I feel bad. I killed my 1.2 billion indie alts implants yesterday by accident when I clicked on the wrong jump clone.
I did one worse, Wolfie. There was one time that I had flown my combat redeemer down here to GE with its implants and didn't realize that I was still sitting in them when I logged in for a capital fleet.
Oh no.
And death cloned.
Oof. Rip. That's just the worst feeling.
Yep. Anyways, what else had I wanted to go over? Oh, yes. So the other thing I wanted to go over was D-scan tools. So Brave does have our own D-scan tool. The fleet, right? As the stream right now. I just pulled it up. And it's just intel.bravecollective.com. You just log in authorize just like you would on the wiki. And you can click dscan right here. And then you just copy everything that is on your dscan window into here, click analyze, and it'll spit out results. Let me undock real quick so I can show you. So you can just literally click on something, Control A, Control C, and you've copied the entire thing. Then you paste it in, click analyze. And our dscan tool has been acting up recently, so it's less reliable. And I'm going to show you a different one that tends to get used instead, which also has some nice features built into it. But as you can see, it sorts everything by type very nicely, just like the Overseer does. And it also separates into things that you can actually see on your overview versus other things in the system. On top of that, my dscan is currently set up so it doesn't show any structures, but if it was, it would show any structures in space as well. And the thing about dscan tools, they're set up to be able to parse basically any data from in-game. You can also take information from local chat and put that in. And if we wait for it to crunch the numbers again, it shows what alliance everyone is in, characters, stuff like that. And if you click on the alliance, it'll break down into what corps.
Yeah, I also use it for quick access to killboard data on people. I'm trying to figure out what ships they may be flying. That's one reason I like our tool, because I can quickly do it instead of having to type everybody in individually.
You just click on their name, and it pulls up their Z-kill data.
Yep, super useful.
The one that tends to get used instead is dscan.info if ours is acting up. So if I paste, let me get the dscan again. For one, it's a lot more responsive. In case you didn't notice, it only took about 1 second to parse all that data. But one of the huge things about it is that it has this manually add recons option. So if you see Huygens, Lachesis, Rooks, or Curse on your overview, and you're trying to get that information to the FC, you can go and say, I saw 10 Huygens, click submit, and it will manually add those to the dscan. Then, same as with ours, you literally just copy the link in your browser's address bar and then drop it in Fleet Chat, click enter, and it'll automatically create the link. And clicking on that link will pull up the exact same screen you're looking at.
Wow.
Dscan tools are absolutely amazing for sharing intel. So it doesn't matter if you're an FC or a scout, you need to know about them, need to know how to use them.
Can't believe I didn't know that existed, but
Well, it's a bit of a niche thing. You know what I mean?
yeah.
The other thing, the last thing I wanted to explicitly bring up for you guys is actually your overview. So, in general, if you're doing more than just taking 5 guys out on a roam, you're going to want to be able to have your overview set up so that way you can quickly tab through and see different types of ships without having to scroll through a million screens. This is especially true if you're in a big, huge tie-dye fight. It can actually be helpful for just a line member to have a customized overview. I actually have, let's just say, a large number of options in mind. A lot of these come from, I use a modification that I made myself of the ZS overview, Zero Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just rejoin that channel so I can link it. There we go. I just linked the chat channel for their overview in Fleet. If anyone wants to go and take a look at it, that's the one I personally use.
What you doing, Wolfie?
Yeah, I use that one too.
Yeah.
Wolfie? What? Buddy?
What's up?
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Just wanted. Yeah. What you up to?
We're doing we're doing a class covering some advanced FC topics. Questionable.
Okay, cool. No, I make it a habit. Every time I see anyone that's not in fleet or just new, I always like try and find them and just see what's going on.
Gotcha.
Nothing
I'm just
has to
out
be in
hunting down wormholes right now.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, no, we,
Yeah,
we
I'm
actually
listening.
have
Say
a
hi.
we actually have a separate fleet up to be able to share
Oh.
links back and forth. That's why everyone here
No,
isn't in
man.
fleet.
I'm not complaining. That's just why I'm saying hi. Sounds fun. Enjoy.
Yep. Anyways, so if you notice, I've got a high value targets tab. I've got a tab that only shows commonly used DPS ships. So that's things like assault frigates, tactical destroyers, uh, uh, heavy assault cruisers, battle cruisers, and battleships. Got a tab just for fighters and drones, capitals, and this is a really nice tab. And a lot of people just don't ever bother looking at it. And it's very similar to the one that's in the base Zero Sundai overview. I believe they call it warp outs. What what the point of this is to be able to align yourself to something that you can instantly warp yourself and or the fleet to be able to get out of trouble. So in my case, it shows every structure that I can see, every planet, and every gate, in addition to TFUs, iHubs, and I believe the sun is in here somewhere, but that's kind of a dumb warp out. Yep, there we go. There it is. There's the sun. And I'll go ahead and link this to you guys just in case you want to use it. I also have one that is specialized for being a logistics commander. Right there. And if you want me to link these to you later or send you any updates, feel free to shoot me a PM on Slack. I'll be more than happy to share it with you or help you make any tweaks you want to do.
All right, cool, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Anyone have any questions on things I haven't covered yet? Or want me to revisit anything that I did cover? Because I said it would be about an hour, and it's been about that point since we started.
This is sort of like a more specific question for me, but like you were talking about how powerful the crucifiers were earlier, right?
Yes.
Well, tomorrow I'm planning on probably getting a bunch of E-war frigates to use in the big thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, right now I only have Amar frigate at 1, you know, the skill, but I have Caldari at 5. So would you say that like a Griffin that has full bonuses is better than a Crucifier with some bonuses, or like,
Oh,
is the Crucifier
absolutely.
just...
Absolutely. So the Griffin is actually, in my opinion, well, the Griffin or the Kitsune, which is the electronic attack ship, that's the T2 version of it, are absolutely where it is at for jams nowadays. They have the range to be able to just sit far enough away that most ships can't shoot back, even though CCP made it so that way that's possible when you're being jammed, while at the same time having the jam strength to be relevant and also being small and fast enough that you can dodge most incoming damage while you're jamming.
I see.
You can't really do that with any of the larger ships anymore. And the ECM change, when that rolled out, it basically broke the Widow. it broke one of the T2 battleships in the game because its primary gimmick was no longer viable with that expensive of a ship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, yeah, I started the game like 5 years ago, and I only came back like a few weeks ago, and that kind of made me sad reading that.
Oh yeah, no, and the worst part for me, this happened right after I trained into being able to fly a Falcon.
Oh
Oh
Right
no,
after.
no.
And like just so you understand how far I invested into Recons because that was broken as hell back in the day.
Mm,
If you take a look at the stream,
yeah.
I have
No.
Recon ships 5
Oh,
and they broke it.
dang.
It's still really good for the Curse and the Pilgrim though, because it gives me such huge range on the newts. It's still good for the Hugin because of the webs. It would still be
Yeah.
amazing for the Lachesis and the Arazu if I could fly the bloody things, because fuck training Kudlante Cruiser 5 for one ship. Although, ironically enough, I did do it on one of my alts because that tune is now capable of flying every single Lynx boat at perfect skills.
Oh.
Actually, that's something else to bring up. Lynx. So I'll make this quick. Um, Basically, everything in the game that you can do with a fleet can be improved by your links. Um, your shield links and armor links are going to have scripts that will improve the raw hit points, the resistances, and the repair capabilities. Basically, they'll improve the efficiency of your logi with that one.
Just to be clear, it's the same thing as a command burst, right? It's just an older terminology.
Yeah, links, command bursts, it's the exact same thing.
All right.
Um, and the skirmish links, that's going to give you bonuses to E-War, specifically webs points and scrams is one of the scripts. I don't think most of the others really get a bonus. The other two scripts give you a bonus to your maneuverability and your sig radius. So that's going to be how fast you can turn around and how well the enemy can track you based on the speed you're going. And the third one is rapid deployment. That's going to affect your prop mod bonus. So your micro warp drives and your afterburners will make you go faster.
I see.
And with the information command, one of the scripts will give you range and scan resolution. So you'll be able to lock things further out faster. The other, I'm less familiar with them. I'm sorry. Give me 2 seconds. Let me just simulate something real quick to double check on my links tune.
Sure.
Okay, there we go. Now I can filter by charge. Okay, so yeah, electronic hardening is going to give you a bonus to your sensor strength. I have that wrong. That's not tied in with the range. And it will give you a resistance to sensor dampening, which is the Golinte faction E-War bonus, by the way. Sensor damps will basically penalize everything about your sensor. It'll make it easier to jam you, which is based on your sensor strength. It will reduce your scan resolution, which makes it take longer to lock things, and it will also reduce your targeting range. Obviously, that's before it's scripted. Once after it's scripted, it only does one of those, but it does it to a higher extent. Electronic superiority will give range and strength bonus to other E-War modules. So that's going to be your sensor damps, your weapon disruptions, your target paints. The skirmish link prime only affects the tackle modules, as I mentioned. And then we've got the sensor optimization, which is scan resolution and targeting range. So just remember to have some guys running links if you're going out on a fleet. Even if they don't have like the Tech 2 command burst module or the mind link, it's still going to give you an edge over what you would have just flying the ships.
I see. And these command burst, the links things, is it worth putting it on just like a regular T1 battleship? Or
Well,
no, not
so
battleship, battlecruiser.
yes, yes, it is. If you don't already have it covered by, okay, so if you have a utility high slot, excuse me, and the FC hasn't explicitly said that they want smart bombs in it or they want newts in it or something like that, then if you have the skills to do it, yes, by all means, slap a links module in there. Slap the, in general, if you're just doing backup links, what you're going to want to do, if it's a shield fleet, you're going to want to do the shield hit points, and you're going to want to do rapid deployment under skirmish, one of those two. If it's an armor fleet, you still want the rapid deployment, but you're going to want the armor hit points mind link, the burst instead.
I see, okay.
Anyways, any other questions before I let you guys go?
Is there any recommended fit for me to use in Eagle fleet beside the support ship?
Okay. Yes and no. Um, like I said, I heavily recommend against you trying to run the
The Ferox.
yeah, or anything like that. But what you can do, if you go to our wiki, which I just pulled up on the stream, and you go to military, it's going to force you to sign in, so you might as well do that before you even click on it. But
Yes.
what that will allow you to do is click this Alliance plus Voltron Fleet Doctrines button, and then right here, it shows all of our Stratop and Fun Fleet doctrines. And if you click on it, then what it will do is it'll show the specific ships that are expected to be flown and SRP'd with that doctrine. So in this case, there aren't really any non-support ships that are T1 with the Eagle Fleet. You've got the Crucifier. Side note, Griffin's Crucifier T1 tackle will always be SRP'd. They won't really require anything. And then you've got the Scythe and the Osprey on logistics.
All right. Thanks.
Can you go back one more just a little bit because I really wanted to get the screen that you're on. I just wanted to see how to get here from the menu on the upper left.
On the left,
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah,
click the one that says
Okay,
Brave
so
Military.
yeah, it's Brave Military, and then you click Alliance plus Voltron Fleet Doctrines. And then it'll pull up the full doctrine list.
Okay, good.
And then how I was able to get to that specific screen for the Eagles is you just click on the name of the doctrine. So, for example, right here, you would just click on Jackdaws, and it'll pull up the same screen, but for the Jackdaw doctrine.
Okay, great.
Any other questions?
Is there a way for the EPR or whatever it is to show me how close or what I'm close to by skills or planning a skill to get to one of these things? Like say
So
they want me to fly like the Eagle, like
There's not, so there is skill plans under that skill plans section on there, and you can take a look and compare it. I don't think we have automatic comparisons though, but under Alliance skill plans, it shows you the skill plans for every single doctrine.
okay, so this is a yes and no situation. because yes, there is a tool run by one of our allies, but I heavily disagree with the skills it says are required to fly the ship.
Right, they're
If
like
you just Google,
fives of everything kind of thing.
it's not quite that bad, but it's run by tests, so that should give you an idea. It's skills.pleaseignore.com, and you have to actually have a test off set up to be able to sign in, which I do. Okay, and just for reference, you can see how high the expectations it has are. Let's pull up my spaceship command tree, okay? And I'll just slowly scroll through, and you can see how many different things I can fly. I can fly basically, actually no, I can literally fly every T1 subcapital in the game, with the exception of I think one or two of the industrial ships, because I've got a better version anyways, so why bother?
Impressive.
And almost every T2 cruiser. I've got every T2 or T3 frigate and destroyer. 3 out of the 4 T3 cruisers as well. And Black Ops battleships. I'm capital capable. I've got a Mar Dreadnought to 4. I can fly a T2 Revelation. I've got 3 out of the 4 carrier skills. Actually, no, I've got 4 out of 4 carrier skills now. I just haven't trained 2 of them up. I literally just bought them so that way I can steal someone's carrier if they eject from it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like my character can fly most of the ships in the game at a decent level. Now, if I go back into the test skill checker and click on my name, notice how few things it says that I am qualified to fly. A bloody caracal, it says I still need 12 hours of training.
Yeah, I don't
For
think
a
people force that through
caracal.
because of that.
Well, hold on. It's not based upon your spaceship command, though, is it?
Well, so yeah, it includes all the support skills as well. And like I can actually fly a T2 caracal, but the thing is they expect rigging skills, which yes, they're great, but to say it's required to even fly the ship, like, oh, and I can't fly T2 heavy missiles. Those are the only things I'm missing. So what you actually want to do is go in and actually click on the doctrine you're trying to figure out, and then it'll give you more details. Um, obviously, apparently I've met the required limit for the Guardian now, but I still don't have it for the Basilisk. Go figure. But no, for example, with the Sino Falcon, see how I have a little green star? That means that I'm good enough with it even for test, which means that no one should ever have an issue with me sitting in one.
Gotcha.
Oh,
Alright.
and I'm also apparently an acceptable Sharon or Providence pilot for test. But yeah, you can use it to go and figure out.
At least I'll give you a general idea.
Exactly. So, like,
Yeah.
for example, right here with the Basilisk, if you look at it, almost everything is blue or green. It's just complaining that I don't have some sensor skills and the drug skills, neurotoxin control and neurotoxin recovery. Um, one of those increases the duration. No, sorry. One of them reduces the chance of having a negative penalty applied. The other one reduces the strength of the negative penalty when it is applied.
I see.
So that's an example of a skill that you don't actually need to worry about most times. Because, like, for example, so logistics ships exclusively run the Mind Flood booster. That's the one that gives you a bonus to your capacitor. So if you look right here, the strong Mind Flood booster will guaranteed give you 20% bonus to your capacitor's maximum capacity.
Shit, man, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Um, but there are some penalties that can show up. One of them is missile explosion radius. The other one is turret. Then we've also got turret optimal range, armor repair amount, and shield booster. But these only apply to your ship. So, and what I mean by that, the shield booster and the armor repair, those only apply to your local reps if you have them. They don't apply to remote reps. And with the way that we fly logistics, that doesn't matter. So there are some skills in there that you can just blatantly ignore. And you, but this can still go, like, for example, with logistics cruisers, they're required of 4 and preferred of 5. I 100% agree with. That's our standard as well. It's a good way to go and see what skills you might be missing, and then you can go and ask someone like myself if we really think that that skill is required that you're missing.
Okay.
But honestly, just look at the skill plane. If you're willing to have the patience to look through it yourself, that's going to be more reliable because our skill plans are a lot more lax. And if you're only off by like 1 or 2 skills, as long as you can sit in the ship, use the guns, all that jazz, you'll be fine. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I guess I'll go ahead and shut this down. Thanks for coming out, guys. Hope you learned something. And I'll be trying to make sure that Jinx throws this up on the YouTube channel soon.
I hope
All
so.
right. Yeah. Thank you.